Hey everyone, it's Mimi and Weezus.
Hey guys, what's good?
Today we're going to cover a crazy case, the O.J. Simpson trial.
Trial and what was it, aftermath?
Yeah, we'll just cover kind of the whole story because let's take it back. This whole thing starts, what was it, June 12th, 1994. So that was before I was even born, dude.
Damn, a whole year. Nice.
Just a couple months because I was born in 94, but just in September, dude. No, I'm old, bro. I'm about to hit 30. So is this case. This case is going to be 30 years old this year, which is crazy. So we've all heard about it. Everybody knows who O.J. Simpson is because of the trial. But
of course, dude, the juice.
Yeah, but we don't like we know, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he killed his wife, blah blah blah. But that's really all I knew because we were young when the whole thing was happening. So you just hear like the drama afterwards, right? So OJ was actually married before to some other lady. He ends up getting divorced in like March of 1979. He then marries Nicole Brown, who turns into Nicole Brown Simpson. And then shit goes south, dude. So he actually had retired from football because he was in the NFL. He played for the Bills, the Niners, like he played for all kinds of, like, he was famous, dude. He was famous. It's always these famous freaking football players, dude, that
he had
are
11
snapping.
seasons, bro.
And you can look up his stats too on the web, guys. So he was good. So he retires from the NFL. They were married for 7 years. They had 2 kids during that time. So they have 2 kids that are like, I think it was like an 85 and 87 or 88 or something. I don't know. So their kids were a little bit older. Now they're older than us.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, they're old now. But then it wasn't just Nicole who gets killed. There's another guy who gets killed. His name was Ron Goldman. So Ron Goldman, let me kind of just explain who he was. He was a waiter that worked at the same restaurant, and he had gone to Nicole Simpson's house that night to return her mom's glasses that she had left behind, like at the restaurant or whatever. And then later that night, dude, guess what? Boop, dead.
They got him with the blicky.
Dude, they didn't though. They like stabbed him. Or I say they, but I guess we'll see who you guys think stabbed him, dude. Because here we go. On the night of June 12th. No, I'm just kidding. But I was going to start it like an audio book.
1994. I was pondering. No, just kidding.
That's what I felt like doing. I was going to like read it like a book. But I'll kind of we'll start at the night of June 12th, right? On the night of June 12th, 1994, OJ was scheduled to board a red-eye flight from Los Angeles to Chicago, where he was actually going to go to like this Hertz rental car corporation like event thing, and he was supposed to play golf there the next day.
Man. No.
Right, he was going to be a spokesperson or spokesman, whatever we're going to call him, right? So the flight was set to leave at 11:45 p.m. that night.
It's like, I wonder what kind of gloves he uses. Not just kidding.
Probably the same ones Tiger Woods uses, dude. Anyways.
Tiger Woods.
So the flight, put that on the list, dude. The flight was due to leave at 11:45 p.m. that night. So he had hired like a limo, obviously, to come pick him up at his house. And the limo was supposed to be there at 10:25 p.m. So here's where, like, the whole thing is just fucking suspicious right from the beginning.
Okay.
The limo driver drives around the estate to make sure he could like navigate the area with like how big the limo was and make sure he can get up and out of the driveway, see what the best access was, because you're in a limo,
he had some
right?
practice runs, dude. He's like, let me hit some demos real quick.
Yeah, well, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be like, I am not wrecking this limo, dude, at OJ Simpson's house. Like, I'll get fired, I'll lose my job. So he's like, let me just see how I'm going to get into the property and whatnot. So then he like can't get a hold of OJ, right? So he starts like buzzing the intercom at 10:40 p.m. No response. He remembers.
He's like, Juice, where you at, Juice?
Yeah. Well, and he noted because he was obviously questioned during the trial. I don't know. I was looking for another word. Couldn't think of it. He said that the house was dark. Nobody like appeared to be home. He smoked a cigarette, made several phone calls to his boss while he was waiting outside. Because he was trying to get OJ's direct number to be like, yo, I'm here. Like, what's going on? And at one point, he said that he saw a shadowy figure go back into like OJ's house. But he said it was like the same size and height and whatever, but it was like shadowy. So at this point, right, he's like, who's that? Someone entered the front door, whatever. The lights that still hadn't come on, dude, when he sees this. So he had to testify like where he was parked outside the house and all that stuff. So he said like he could see like the address spray painted onto, you know, the sidewalk or whatever. So then where he was parked on the curb would have been like that's where OJ Simpson's Bronco was found the next day, but it was not there when the limo driver was there, right?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So this is a big, yeah, this is a big part of the case because, like, obviously the limo driver was parked out there, so how was the Bronco also parked there? It makes no sense, right?
Of course he drove a Ford, bro. What a disgusting man. No, just kidding.
Yeah. So around the same time that, like, the limo driver sees, like, the quote-unquote shadowy figure, you know, head towards, like, the south walkway, because he saw it go towards the south walkway. This is all important to the trial, where the bloody glove, because there was a bloody glove found in this walkway, right? He also found that this guy named Cato,
just so you guys know, it was the right glove, the right hand.
The right hand, okay. Good to know. So this guy who lived in his guest house, by the way, Kalen is, I think how you say it, he was like on the phone with a friend. Approximately 10:40, same time that like this guy is buzzing the intercom and not getting any response from OJ, something crashed into the wall of the guest house. Not like a car crash, but he just heard like 3 big thumps, you know, on like almost, he thought it was like an earthquake or something starting. So he was like, what the hell? Hangs up the phone with his friend, ventures outside to like investigate like what the hell are those noises? But he didn't go down the south pathway, which is like where the thumps had obviously originated from. He just went outside and was like, hello. And then he got scared and was like, screw this, I'm going back in, right? So he walked the property. He actually saw the limo guy parked outside. And then he was like, oh, you need in? So he buzzes the limo guy in. And then at this point, what happens? OJ Simpson comes through the front door like a few minutes later and is like, oh, sorry, like I was asleep. And it's like, were you though? Or were you just sneaking back in and now you're coming out the front door? Yeah. So
That's wild.
Yeah. So this Kalen guy and the limo driver, they had both testified that like when he came out, he seemed really just agitated and weird. Here is where things take even more of a turn because at this point they don't know these guys are dead, right? They haven't seen the dead bodies yet, so they're just thinking like, God, this guy's acting freaking strange, whatever. Yeah, so the limo driver, he says that on the way to the airport that OJ Simpson kept complaining about like how hot it was and he was sweating and he rolled down the window despite like the fact that it wasn't even hot outside that night. And so he was just like, okay. So then the limo driver also said that he loaded 4 luggage bags into the car that night. One of them was like a little knapsack looking thing. And when the limo driver like went to help him load it, he was like, no, you can't touch this. You can't touch this. And he like insisted that he would load it on his own. And so it's like, okay, what was in the bag? And it doesn't matter. Like if you're a limo driver or Uber driver or whatever, people probably are like weird about letting you handle their stuff. So it's probably not immediately a red flag, right?
See, look, bro, like here's the thing. If you're friendly or if you're Mexican, you know, honestly, your mom, your dad, when your aunties and uncles came, they would send you to go get their bags. So for me, it's like it's like whatever, right? It's just bags. But for some people, it's like, you know, it's my life's in there, you know? That's how they think.
Well, that's how I acted on the plane, dude. Like when they tried to take my plane going to London, I was like, you can't touch it. Like I probably was all sus, but like I didn't want my dress to get lost. And guess what? It did. So maybe OJ, you know, he's a famous guy too. So keep that in mind. He's famous and he just doesn't want his bag touched. But what makes it sus is that he didn't care about him touching the other bags. It was only this little knapsack that he was carrying, right? So here's where shit gets more suspicious. A guy, like a porter at the airport, testified in court that OJ Simpson only checked 3 bags in at the airport that night.
But the limo driver saw 4?
Yeah, the limo driver loaded 3 of them, and then the 4th bag, he was like, no, I'll load it myself. Don't touch it. Like, I'll load it myself. And then the airport was like, suspicious. Nah. Yeah, he only checked 3 bags. So then the police determined that the missing luggage was the same knapsack that the limo driver had mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm.
So another he tried just dipping it?
I guess I don't know whatever happened to the bag. I never read anything about it after this. I could have just missed it because there was so much reading, but we'll find it out by the end of the episode. So then there's another witness who wasn't heard speaking at the trial, but he just talked to police, or she. They said that they saw O.J. Simpson at the airport discarding items from that bag into the trash can when he got dropped off.
It was a bomb.
Or the murder weapon.
I mean that too, but
yeah.
What if O.J. Simpson is related to? I'm just playing.
No, don't even start a conspiracy, dude. So there was two detectives, Detective Tom Lang or something, and this other guy named Philip, right? They believed that the contents of that bag were obviously the murder weapon, some shoes and clothes that he wore during the murder. So at this point, OJ, obviously because he was just done murdering people, he was running a bit behind, right? He quote unquote overslept and then whatnot. So he's running late, but he does catch the flight, dude. So he does make the flight. A passenger on the same flight and the pilot both testified that they didn't notice any cuts or wounds on OJ at all.
Damn. So what if he, put some makeup on?
Well, here's the next part. So he gets to Chicago, right? Because he makes that flight. Afterwards, when they were like cleaning, a broken glass, a note with the telephone number on it, and bed sheets that had blood on them were all recovered from that hotel room at the Plaza Hotel that he was staying in, from his hotel room. Then the manager of that hotel said that O.J. Simpson had come and asked her for a Band-Aid for his finger at the front desk because he had cut it on a note, like a piece of paper, is what he said. That he had a paper cut and needed a Band-Aid.
Damn, bro. How deep was this paper cut?
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, that's a deep freaking cut, dude. I'll hit you with the next bit. So at this point, like, right, I told you, what's his face? OJ, he gets checked into his hotel. Or he leaves for the hotel, I should say. All the stuff recovered, like, this is after. So I just kind of threw that detail in. But at like 10:50 p.m., a neighbor had spotted this night that Nicole Brown, she had a white Akita, was like by itself, and it was barking, and it had blood all on its paws.
It was painted with blood, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like, it had blood on its paws, and like, this is at this point, they're like, okay. So I think at this point, people are getting sus. The dog actually led the neighbors to the dead bodies, which were like kind of near the gate. And at this point, O.J. Simpson is still on the plane because he hasn't checked in. And this was at like 12:10 a.m. that day. So O.J. Simpson's plane, well, not his plane, but he doesn't check into his hotel, I guess, until like 4:15 in the morning.
Okay.
So at this point, they realize that, like, okay, this is O.J. Simpson's ex-wife and mother of his kids. We need to notify him. And so they all realize, okay, he's out of town for business. We need to get to him. So at 4:30 a.m., the police actually go to O.J. Simpson's house. So this is on, like, they call it the Rockingham Mansion because that was where he lived. This other girl, Nicole, she actually lived on a street called Bundy, which is crazy if you think about it. But the police...
Ted Bundy? No.
That's what I said, right? So they actually arrive at, like, the Rockingham Mansion, right, to go tell O.J. Simpson that, like, hey, Nicole Brown's been murdered. But then they discover his blood-stained Bronco there, right? And a bloody glove that matches one that was found near Goldman's body.
Which is the left one.
Yeah. So I think things just got real crazy at this point. So at this point, when they realize, oh, he's not home, then the detectives, that Tom guy, Philip, and then this Ron Phillips guy, and Mark, I don't know how to say if it's Furman because it has an H in it, so it throws me off. But they were all, like, ordered by their commander that you guys got to let him know. They call him and they say, hey, we need to let you know that Nicole was murdered. We need to escort you to the police station to pick up, like, their kids, whatever, right? Who were asleep in her condo at the time of the murders, dude. So they were there at the house asleep upstairs.
Wow.
Weird, right?
My God.
So, like, everything was just really suspicious at this point because they, like, the police, when they had gone to OJ's house, they, like, rang the buzzer for over, like, 30 minutes. They never received a response. They had also noted that OJ Simpson's car was parked at, like, an awkward angle. Like, you know, when you rush into a parking spot and, like, slam it into park and run, like, because you're in a hurry. They said that its back end was, like, out way more than the front and that there was blood on the door. which at this point they couldn't just go in to his estate, by the way, because that's illegal and they didn't have a warrant, right? But once they saw the blood, they were like, someone might be hurt because we just found his wife murdered, so maybe he's murdered too. So they were like, okay, we can go in now by law because we see blood and we see evidence. So they had to jump over, right? So the one guy, Mark Furman, he ends up like scaling the wall, and he goes in, unlocks the gates for the other 3 detectives to come in. The detectives, like, because they said this is the whole trial was them trying to prove that the police did their jobs incorrectly. So in court, the detectives had to say, like, we entered without a warrant, yes, but there was like, circumstances that allowed us to, because there was blood, we thought someone might be hurt, whatever. So Mark Furman briefly interviewed like the Kalen guy who was in the guest house. He told detectives that the car belonged to O.J. Simpson, and that earlier that night he had heard thumps on the wall, walked around the premises, he couldn't find anything, and then Furman was the one who discovered like the blood-stained right hand glove, which is what you were talking about, which was later determined that like the little mate to that glove was the left hand glove that was found next to that body, right? So then, this is all sounding real suspicious. Why would the freaking glove be there? And OJ's like, me? not me.
It couldn't be.
So
then
Phillips,
who? No, just kidding.
yeah, exactly. So like, explain yourself, right? So Ron Phillips, this is the detective that actually called OJ. He was the one who had to tell him what happened. He said that OJ Simpson sounded like very upset, but was like oddly unconcerned about the circumstances of the death. He wasn't like, who did it? Did you guys catch him? Nothing. He was just like, damn, she's dead. That's sad. And then he said that OJ asked if the children had seen the murder or the body. He didn't ask if they were okay. He didn't ask like if they had been harmed or anything. So they were like, like he obviously knew they were okay because he didn't even ask. He just said, did the kids see the murder happen? Like, that's what he was concerned about.
Like I feel like these detectives, yeah, they didn't do their job correctly, because I feel like they would have picked up on those mannerisms
like right away.
Well, right? Because let's just say, Miranda, like for me, I always react on how you tell me something, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like maybe it's like an ego thing maybe, but like if you tell me I have to do something, right? Like in reality, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? That's the truth.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But if you tell me, can you do this? Of course, right? Of course. And I feel like these detectives had to pick up like stuff like that, right? And what were they doing? They're like, did he do it?
Well, and the crazy part is, like, at this point, these detectives, they're in, with the LAPD. They're not in Chicago with him where he's finding out about this information. So they're just talking to him on the phone and being like, okay, like, this is getting real weird. Like, there's really not much they could do because they're not interviewing him face to face. So, yeah, so this next day, they actually take him into Parker Center for questioning. One of the detectives noticed that OJ has a cut on his finger on his left hand that was consistent with exactly where the killer would have been bleeding from with those gloves. And then he said, hey, like, where'd you get that cut? And at first he was like, oh, I accidentally cut my finger while I was in Chicago after I learned about, like, Nicole's death. And then he then said, well, okay, well, there was, like, blood inside your car. So, and then he was like, oh, like, actually I'd cut my finger before I left and I can't remember how.
I actually severed my arm and I reattached it in the car.
That's basically how he acted, dude.
It's just all floppy because it's dead.
Well, for real, that's how he would, like, he had this big huge thing and be like, oh, I did have a cut, but it actually healed overnight, and like, so it was really crazy. But he was just, the whole story was already off at this point, right? And they're like, okay, like. And everyone's giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's famous. That's really what I feel.
They're like, it's the Jews. He would never do it.
He would never,
He's
dude.
The brother.
That's literally how they acted. But then at this point, with all that stuff going around, OJ, voluntarily, like, gives his blood sample for comparison with the evidence that they had collected, because he's trying to be like, I'm innocent. Here's my blood. So then on June 14th, this is when OJ hires Robert Shapiro, who is, like, I feel like his name is just so familiar, and it's because he was the big lawyer in this case, right? So Robert, begins assembling, like, the dream team, quote unquote, is what they call themselves, of lawyers. So this includes none other than Robert Kardashian before he passes away, right? So this is the Kardashians' dad. This is the only reason they're famous is because OJ killed someone. This is where shit gets weird because the following days, right, the results from these DNA tests are coming back with matches to OJ Simpson's blood. So, like, they are getting matches. At this point, they're like, oh my God, he's so depressed. Like, his lawyers are just really trying to make it seem like he's needs to go into like a mental facility because of his depression. And they're really trying to just get everything they can, right? So then on June 17th, which has been, 5 days since the murders?
Yes.
Detectives recommended, they said, okay, OJ needs to be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances of multiple killings after the DNA results came back because they saw that, okay, this is a match, right?
Yeah.
The LAPD notifies his lawyers that he would have to turn himself in that same day. And they notify him at 8:30 in the morning. 9:30 that day, Shapiro went to the Kardashians' home, Robert Kardashian, to tell him that, hey, by 11 p.m., like, we got to have OJ turning himself in. An hour after those charges were filed, right? So then Simpson told Shapiro that he wanted to turn himself in, to which the police were like, all right, whatevs, we'll do this. And believing that, someone as famous as OJ, he's not going to attempt to flee. Like, everyone knows who he is. So the police agreed with his lawyers to, like, delay his surrender until noon, at least, to allow him to go get checked by that mental health person because he was pretending that he was so depressed and whatnot. So he had to update his will. Like, that's sketchy, right? He went and had his will updated, called his mom and kids, and he wrote 3 sealed letters, one to his kids, one to his mom, and one to the public at this point. So more than 1,000 reporters, dude, waited for him to, let's call it the perp walk. They waited for him at the police station to walk in and turn himself in. The LAPD at this point notifies his lawyers that, no, you know what? We're going to actually go arrest him at Robert Kardashian's home. So Kardashian and Shapiro told OJ, like, this is when the police are going to arrive. They did an hour later. And then OJ Simpson, dude, flees.
Of course. Of course.
With another NFL star, Al Cowlings, I'm not sure. He was in the NFL too. He has a Bronco. He's like, let's leave. The 3 sealed letters Simpson had written were left behind, though. So at about like 1:50 p.m., the commander publicly declared O.J. Simpson as a fugitive at this point. They put out an APB for him and an arrest warrant for the other dude because, like, he was helping him flee the scene, right?
Yeah.
At 5 p.m. that day, Robert Kardashian, he reads the public letter, like, to the public. He had said, like, greetings to 24 friends and wrote, he said, first, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. That's how the note started. He described, like, the fights that he had with Nicole and their decision to reconcile their relationship and asked, the media, and I quote, as a last wish, not to bother his children. He wrote to his then girlfriend, Paula Barbieri, who had just broke up with him the morning of the murder, by the way, and said, I'm sorry, we're not going to have our chance. As I leave, you'll be in my thoughts. It said he can't go on. He apologized to the Goldman family. And then basically, like, the letter was concluded by him saying, like, don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real OJ, not this lost person you're seeing now. So everyone thought, okay, this is a suicide note.
It was the drugs, bro.
It was something, dude.
It was the methany.
It was something. I don't know. I think it was all for show. If I had to say, I think he did that just to make people feel sad for him. Like,
maybe.
So here's where shit gets even crazier because he obviously didn't kill himself, right? So news helicopters were searching, like, the highways because they were looking for this Al guy's Bronco. So at 5:51 p.m., OJ himself calls 911. They obviously trace this call. They find where they're at. At about 6:20 p.m., someone else driving a car believed to see OJ riding in the Bronco on, like, the freeway. So the police keep tracking all the calls by Simpson because he had his cell phone and he was, like, calling people, dude. At 6:45,
he's like, can you help me out?
Yeah, literally. And I think he was telling people, like, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to die, right? So at 6:45 p.m., a police officer sees that Bronco with him in it, like, driving up the interstate. She catches up to it, and this Al Collings guy, he yells out the window and says, like, OJ's in the back seat, he's got a gun pointed at his own head. So, like, he's in the back, like, I'm gonna do it, doing that. So the police officer is like, all right, I better back off because like we obviously want to catch this guy. We don't want him to kill himself in this vehicle. So she backs off but keeps following them. At this point, dude, like 20 other cop cars catch up to them and they're just like driving behind them because at this point, like he's fleeing,
They're like,
So
hopefully we can get away.
that's like I don't know what the whole point of the fleeing was, especially with that many cops. He's like, I gotta kill myself or give myself up at this point, right? Like that's really what you have to do. I don't know what else to do. So
I would have killed myself. Nah, just kidding.
so here's the weirdest part. So
Okay.
they knew that like the AM radio was playing. So one of the sports announcers, who his name was Pete, he called O.J. Simpson's like old USC football coach named John McKay, and they connected him to O.J. Simpson. I think they used the radio and whatever. He ends up like crying on the phone with his old coach and telling the coach like, okay, I won't do anything stupid, I promise. And this is off the air, right? There's no doubt in my mind, dude, is what this guy says, that the only reason OJ didn't kill himself in the back of that Bronco was because of whatever his coach said to him on the phone.
He's like, I'll give you more cocaine if you just stop fucking up right now.
Yeah, like, dude, chill out. Don't do this because they're like on TV and like on air and stuff. So I don't know. All of it just seems really wild. And so at this point, he said like the only person who deserved to get hurt was him. He just wanted to go be with Nicole and whatever. And it's just like weird. Anyways, so he obviously like he obviously ends up like not killing himself, right? This was aired on like every freaking local channel and stuff. The chase ended at 8 p.m. that night at another one of his houses, like 50 miles away, where his son ran out of the house, like got to hug him, and I don't know. The whole thing just seems crazy. So he stayed in the Bronco though for like 45 minutes. At like I said, at like 8:50, he finally gets out with a framed photo of his family, dude. And then he went inside for like an hour. Police said that he spoke to his mom, drank a glass of orange juice, and then
OJ drank a glass of OJ?
Yeah, dude.
That's
OJ drank
crazy.
some OJ.
That's crazy.
And then his lawyer arrived, Shapiro did. Simpson decided, okay, I'm going to surrender myself now. So he surrenders himself a few minutes later. In the Bronco, cops found $8,000 in cash, a change of clothes, a gun, a passport, family pictures, and a disguise kit with a fake like goatee and mustache, dude. Guilty people. That's what guilty people do.
It was just, he wasn't guilty, Miranda. He was just, he was just taking his luggage. He was probably going to, somewhere far, far away where they wouldn't recognize him. He's gonna,
like what if
bleach his head. A little
well,
fake
he was just
beard
gonna
and
put on
mustache.
put on a fake mustache and be like, no one will know who I am now.
But he's like still 6'1" and he's still huge, like,
Yeah. So at this point, he's like booked into the jail, and then the other guy, also Al, he gets booked on suspicion of like harboring a fugitive, obviously. But I don't know, dude. So like that happens, and then this is where like the hearing and everything starts after that. So I have a list of evidence that they had like compiled against OJ, and then I'll tell you how he somehow got away with murder, right?
Okay. Hit me with it, bro.
So, first off, there was evidence of his hair. So, he also, I guess the 911 call of like, I don't know if this was from her or him. It doesn't specify, but there was history of violence from them before, where they actually took her diary to court and they pulled out pages, and I actually got like some pictures of it and like some direct quotes. So in court, in her diary, she had written, that he beat her for hours as she was trying to crawl to the door. And like, keep in mind, she didn't think people were gonna see this. She just writing it to herself. So there's that. And then
she didn't think she was gonna get killed, man. Come on.
Yeah, she didn't think she was gonna get killed. So she had written in there like, and this was all in like 1994, like early, like the month before she died. She wrote that she described in there how they had officially split up and how they were gonna like make arrangements for visiting the kids. And then on June 3rd, she said that OJ came to her house to pick up the kids, and he told her, You hung up on me last night. You're going to pay for this, bitch. You're holding money from the IRS. You're going to jail, you effing C word. I won't say the C word on here. You think you can do any fucking thing you want. You've got it coming. I've already talked to my lawyers about this, bitch. They'll get you for tax evasion, bitch. I'll see to it. You're not going to have a fucking dime left, bitch. Literally, that's what he said to her just a week before killing her. Or not killing her, according to him.
Hypothetically.
So all of that's in a letter. They have all this from her diary to like put on display for everybody, right? So everyone's like, damn, like he did that. So there were like other portions of the letter that said she literally wrote a letter to him. And they had that. So she said, I think I have to put this on the letter. And she said there was a time before the kids were born. I felt really good about how I got back in shape. We were out. You beat the hell out of me. And then we lied at the x-ray lab and said I fell off a bike. Do you remember that? New Year's Eve, you beat me up. I don't see how this compares to infidelity, wife beating, verbal abuse. I called the cops to save my life, whether you believe it or not. That's what she was writing in this letter to him, because he's like, you called the cops on me. So there was proof that he had already like beat the crap out of her multiple times, dude.
What a monster.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if she wrote this down or if she just told someone, but she had told someone. We'll just go with told someone for now. And this is like a quote that was put into the trial. Here's the quote is, I know he's going to kill me. I wish he would hurry up and get it over with. He'll never let me leave.
God, dude, she's just scared.
Yeah, she's scared. And like, it's scary being in a situation where you think that like your partners, you just know. And there's like a certain point in the abuse where you're just like, dude, I hope you do it. Just snap and do it already. Like, just get me out of this because it's better than what you're going through. Like, and that's the point that she was at, dude. There's evidence all over the place. So the hair evidence, that was the letters I was talking to you about, right? So the hair evidence, hairs consisted with that of Simpson that were found at Nicole's house, and then also hairs that matched him were on Ron Goldman's shirt. There was fiber evidence, so cotton fibers that were consistent with the same carpet in the Bronco found on the glove that was at OJ's house. And then there was other fibers consistent with the carpet from the Bronco that were found at Nicole's house too.
So he was everywhere, dude.
Yeah, so he was obviously.
Look, he tackled this Ron.
Who, the Goldman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he probably tackled him, and who knows? Like, this is the part was like, I don't even think Goldman was probably like part of the murder. I think he was just like there.
Oh yeah, he was there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. So you think the fibers are weird, dude. Now we're gonna go on to the blood evidence. All right. The killer dropped blood near the shoe prints because like there was blood. Keep in mind that Nicole was found like in a puddle of her own blood.
Okay. Almost decapitated.
Yeah, almost decapitated. And so there were shoe prints at that place. The blood dropped at Nicole's house was the same type of blood as OJ's, which only about 0.5% of the entire population would match that. And then Simpson also had fresh cuts on his left hand the day after the murder. There was blood found in the Bronco. There was blood found in the foyer and the master bedroom at OJ's house. There was blood on the driveway at OJ's house. Keep in mind, the murders were at Nicole's house. So why is the blood over at OJ's house if he's not guilty, right?
Yeah.
And then they found socks in OJ's room with blood on it that matched Nicole's.
How, dude? How?
Yeah.
He's like, that blood wasn't there from this time. It was from last time.
It was from the last time I beat her. So then the shoe print evidence. So remember I just said there was like shoe prints in the blood? Were the same size and exact same brand of shoe that OJ has.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Of course, dude.
And then there was a bloody shoe impression on the Bronco carpet that was the exact same shoe print that was found next to the bodies.
So how wasn't it him?
And he wore the same exact shoe size.
Right? How wasn't it him?
It was. That's the worst part. And then the way he reacted to like the news when they called him to inform him of the death was just like the police thought that was weird. And then, dude, here's the glove evidence, all right? The left glove found at Nicole's house and the right glove found at O.J. Simpson's house are the exact same kind and brand of glove, same size, XL. And in 1990, Nicole had bought that exact same pair of gloves for him as a present.
Oh,
And
damn.
at Bloomingdale's, and they had like the evidence that she had bought that pair of gloves. And apparently he wrote a book in 2007 called If I Did It, and for all intents and purposes he basically confessed in the book. The book describes all the details, like the events leading up to the moment of the murder and stuff. So like he didn't even testify really in his own criminal trial. He had his attorneys do it. So after the jury like acquitted him, because he didn't get charged with these, right? He got charged, but he didn't get convicted of the murders. They just acquitted it, so they were like, nah, you innocent.
Yeah.
And this was at the big trial. His defense attorneys, they never said like, well, he didn't do it. They just said the jury did the right thing. They never ever said he was innocent. They just said the jury did the right thing by acquitting him of the thing. And then, okay, keep this in mind, right? If you're not guilty of murder and your wife gets murdered, you just gonna go to trial and then be like, all right, told you guys I didn't do it. No, you're gonna look for the person who did, right? Like you would be like, who did it? Like we have to find more evidence. We have to track down who did it. No, everyone was just trying to set him up, but there was never a search for who the actual, and I quote, murderer was if it wasn't him. That's fucking weird, don't you think?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. This case makes it seem like they set up OJ to fail and then he just succeeded.
So he gets acquitted of this, right? The other evidence, okay, so they made him, dude, try on those gloves in court on the day of his trials. They were like, put them on then. The one guy was like, put them on if they're not yours, because he was like, those aren't even my size.
Nah, dude, you gotta say the famous line. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
They did make him put the gloves on. He said, oh, they're too tight, but they also made him wear rubber gloves underneath so that he didn't contaminate the stuff more. And then he was like, the picture of him, he's like, with his hands all stretched out. He's all, they're tight, see? And then the one guy said exactly what you said, the famous line, I'm not light. The glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, dude. And that literally got him out. The other piece of evidence, dude, they had photographs of O.J. Simpson wearing the shoes.
Dude, they were like, but it looks like it could have been him, but it wasn't, dude. It wasn't. It's the juice. It's the juice, man. Come on, he wouldn't do it.
Then he went to another trial. It was a civil trial. This jury, they charged him with it. They were like, you did it, bro. You're guilty. And you know what he had to do? He just had to pay him. He had to pay the families, the Brown family and Ron Goldman's family. Like it was like a $33 million settlement or something, but because they said, now you're guilty of murder, you did it. But because it was like a civil trial and not like the criminal trial, he just didn't go to jail.
He got away with it.
Isn't that insane?
He got away with it is what you're telling me.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. And you got to know. You have to know it was him because we kind of talked about this in other episodes when we're talking about murder, right? He, hypothetically, right, he stabbed Nicole 12 times. And like you said earlier, one of the wounds nearly severed her neck because of like where it hit. It like hit that vertebrae in the back of your neck that like connects your spine and your neck, and so like boop, it just stabbed right into it, dude. The other guy, Ron Goldman, he received like 20 to 25 stabs altogether.
I don't know. You know what? It just when you're just describing the killings, it just reminded me of there's an episode of Family Guy where OJ comes out and he hangs out with Peter, right? And literally the whole day, OJ tries to prove to Peter that he didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
And towards the end, like there's a whole crowd or whatever. And then, like, I don't know where he, like, there's like two chicks next to OJ and a guy. And then out of nowhere, he he's getting ready to leave. And then out of nowhere, he like turns around, cuts off like one of the girls' heads, stabs one of the chick, or like, kills like three people and then dips. Yeah. And then that's how the episode ends. So.
Oh my God, dude. I want to watch it now.
The little Family Guy clip.
You want to know another thing? Is that there was a pastor and former NFL player also, and he went into the jail to talk to OJ, and OJ like confessed to him is basically what they said. And he, being like a pastor, he can't, I don't know what the rule is there if you're like doing a confession, but he didn't testify, but someone else, one of the jailhouse guards who saw him his name was Jeff Stewart. He went and testified to the judge and said, like, at one point that O.J. Simpson even was yelling to the pastor, like, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it.
Of course, he's always gonna try to convince everybody that he didn't do it, just cause
Yeah.
he did do it. He's an animal, and he just
Yeah.
he just won't care what he does or what he did, because he didn't get in trouble for it.
Well, and
Like,
he
fuck
also,
it.
like you kind of said earlier with the drugs, right? At one point in his trial, he tried to say that like one or more hitmen were hired by drug dealers and they had Brown and Goldman murdered because they were looking for Brown's friend, which was this other lady named Faye, a known cocaine user who had failed to like pay for the drugs.
Damn, showed me
Yeah.
like 10K, bro.
Well,
Had to
basically is what he said, right? Like he said that she owed drugs and she had stayed at Brown's house until she went to rehab just a couple days before she got killed. So it was the drug dealers.
See, I fronted homie a pound, and that's like 2-3 G's, right? And then 3 months had passed by, and not nothing. I had to send my cards for her. No,
That's literally what he acted like, dude. Like that's he tried to make up stories like that. And he's like, look, this is what had to have happened. Trust me. Trust me.
okay, dude. So from learning all this, what do you think? Do you think
I think he's like the
he did
guiltiest
it?
to ever exist on this planet.
Damn. Okay, dude. So I got some thoughts for you. Just. So okay, dude. So my theory on OJ, I guess they're theories. Fuck it.
Yeah.
The first one is, he assembled his dream team of lawyers, right? The best of
Yeah.
the best to try to win this case. And he set it during the trial that there was another person there with him that drove him, right? His name was Charlie. That Charlie helped him out. That Charlie was the one that, parked the truck when he left for the airport or whatever.
Yeah.
There the next day, he like threw away he's the one that threw away the clothes and the knife.
Yeah.
All this stuff that they couldn't find. That it was because of Charlie.
Hmm.
But dude, like I said drugs. OJ was a meth head. Like everyone says, he was on meth, right?
I didn't know that.
So here's the thing, what if he made up Charlie up in his head? He's Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he managed to like confess everything, because he's like, we'll blame it on Charlie. This guy Charlie, during the actual guy, he said during the like he didn't associate with OJ enough to like talk to him daily or like at all.
Is he saying that Charlie
He made
killed
up
her?
No, he said
Or Charlie's made up is what you're saying.
Charlie's
Like,
made up in his head. So
oh.
it's like a split personality thing.
Oh, I just found it. Okay, I see what you mean. So it's like another personality that he has. Like Charlie did it, but like it's like what's that movie called? Like that was Patricia.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
It's called Split. Is it called Split?
Split,
It's like some.
yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's
Okay, yeah.
Split.
It's something like that.
Yeah, because maybe in his illusion on all this meth, and then having his girl had broken up with him that day,
Yeah.
he was just on one. He's like, he killed her and all this shit, and then the only thing he could do was like, fuck it, my last thing. Charlie did it, and since, how do I say, they even say that his lawyers knew about this, like this, that they were gonna use this tactic. Like they knew that OJ was already crazy, like he was already gone.
Yeah. Dude. No, that's okay. Imagine this though comes back and connects to like the Aaron Hernandez case where these football players get CTE from playing football and then their brain is so crazy and you can't diagnose it in a live person, right? So they can only do it once OJ dies, they can look at his brain and they'll do that, dude. I bet. They'll be like, oh, see, it was CTE. It wasn't him, dude. CTE Charlie or whatever we're going to call him.
Of course.
But that is a good theory. And I actually pulled up the page that like how he described it. And it was in 2006. So this is years after the murder. And I have like what he wrote down. So if you guys want me to read it, I don't know why I forget that they can't hear us, dude. Do you guys want to hear? I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
So to this day, dude, the murder weapon has not been found. So this is technically like, do we say this is unsolved? I don't know. But the murder weapon has never been found, right? But so there was like no link to anything. So he says, and this is what OJ said when he's talking about Charlie, right? He said, and I quote, As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself, and this guy kind of got into a karate thing. And I said, well, you think you can kick my ass? And I remember I grabbed the knife. I do remember that portion, taking a knife from Charlie, OJ said during the interview. Charlie appears in OJ's account out of nowhere and baffled the people during a roundtable discussion because everyone was like, who the fuck's Charlie, right? And then he says, and to be honest, after that, I don't remember, except I'm standing there and there's all kinds of stuff around. And the interviewer said, oh, what do you mean, what kind of stuff, right? And he said, blood and stuff. Can you imagine doing this interview like he comes on our podcast and we're like, blood and stuff, and we're like, okay, well, we're gonna end for the day. Like, like, what do you even say to that?
Like, I would beep the silent alarm for the armed guards to come in, like, right away.
Yeah, for real.
And then I'll be like, Jay, it was really pleasant having you. Like, honestly, I'm a big NFL fan. I'm a big 49ers fan. Can I get your shirt signed? And then as they're shining it, you're asking him these stupid questions, and the security guards come in and be like, he did it. He did it.
Yeah, he knows he's guilty and he knows he's done it. And so do you guys want to know why he was acquitted? Obviously, we want to know. So he wasn't acquitted because there wasn't enough evidence. He was acquitted because his trial strategy, dude, worked. His lawyers came up with a whole way to demonstrate that the police had like sloppy practices and they were just incompetent. And ultimately, that's why the legal team got the acquittal, because they were like, the police department is racist, and that, he was framed because he's a former NFL star.
It didn't help that at the time it was the 90s, how do I say? It was like the LA gang wars.
Oh, and here's some other crazy stuff, dude. So that guy that I told you about at the beginning, and I said he was important. So that was Detective Furman or whatever. I don't know if I'm probably not saying his name right, but whatever. They said like, oh, he's racist. That's why they're framing him. He's racist. They even said that that sock with the blood was like planted. That's what his defense team tried to say. So then they said, oh, well, he's not racist. Like, maybe you're just thinking that. Well, they actually got like video recording of this Mark Furman guy like saying racial slurs. And so then they tried to use that in the case against him, dude. For real. Like, so they got that. But so I'm gonna go over, this makes the episode a little bit longer, guys, but this stuff is all very important before you make your decision on obviously what you think happened. You already know our thoughts on it. But out of the witnesses and like the evidence that came forward, obviously a lot of scientists had to come forward and like say, hey, this is how the blood evidence was collected, this is how we test it, and this is why it's real. Like, and they were still trying to be like, there was contamination, right? So
they're like, I don't know, man. You weren't wearing gloves that day.
Yeah, literally, that's what they were doing. They were like, well, you didn't handle it right. Like, you didn't have a glove, or you did this, like, you did that. They were trying to be like, no, you guys are dumb, so we don't know. This guy named Gregory Matheson, he was the chief forensic chemist at the LAPD crime lab at the time. He testified from May 1st to May 5th in 1995, right? So his serology results, which are just his, like, blood results, revealed that the blood drops that were found alongside of like the bloody shoe prints leaving the victims, obviously it matched O.J. Simpson's blood. The error rate for this test is only 1 in 200. So that's the error rate. It's going to be rare to get like a test on that, right?
Yeah,
so this isn't the worst one though. It gets way worse. There's proof clearly, and then they just no. So then Matheson, he said that like there was some mistakes that were admitted, obviously, that could have resulted in contaminating some of the evidence. But he also said that about the only drop of blood that was too degraded for testing was the one that was found under Nicole's fingernails. So the defense said that the blood belonged to the real killer, quote, and that Matheson said the blood was probably hers because her hand was in her own pool of blood. So like that was the other hard part, is that she was soaking in a pool of her own blood, right? So if you're soaking in your own blood and you're still picking up O.J. Simpson's blood, that's a little sus if you ask me, right?
Because, okay, bro, let me explain that for a second.
Do it.
So, you know how you said that there wasn't, like, basically O.J. didn't have any, how do I say, scratches or, like, cuts or anything. The thing is, he did have a scratch on his face, and they think that's what that's what was under the
was under the nail? Dude, okay. I didn't know that. because I thought he just had the cut on his finger. Another thing that they found was that, like, so this is what they tried to use this against him in court, right? Was that here's what the mistake was. He said that the blood that was from the Bronco and the back gate at Brown's home, because there was blood like on the back gate and stuff, should have been collected on June 13th, but it wasn't collected until like July 3rd or something. So she should have used like 3 separate swatches to collect from 3 different spots on the Bronco, not just one. And like, so they tried to say like there's too much time in between, or you didn't do enough on this one spot and all this stuff. So then there's this other person named Dr. Robin Cotton, the lab director of Cellmark Diagnostics. She testified, or he, I'm not sure, that, and they call this RFLP, it's called restriction fragment length polymorphism testing. It's a specific kind of DNA testing, the most precise kind. She testified that the blood found on the sock in OJ's bedroom was Nicole Brown's, and the chance of error for this test is 1 in 170 million. That's how low the chance of error is for this test. And that the blood drops next to the footprints near Nicole's body where was Simpson's, with a 1 in 9.7 billion chance of error with that test. And they still were like, but what about the cross-contamination with the, this might not be right. And it's like,
dude, that day I saw Steve. He didn't wash his hands, and then he went to work, and he still picked up someone's blood, man. That's gross.
It makes no sense. Yeah, and like a ton of people, like I could give you all the names. Another guy, Gary Sims, he did the same thing. He went and testified and said, the results from the DNA are matching. The one on the sock is 100% matches Nicole Brown's blood. And the chance of error for this test that he did was 1 in 7.7 billion chance of error. There's no way that's going to happen. And then he said that the blood on the back gate at Nicole's house matched O.J. Simpson's, and the blood found inside the Bronco belonged to the 2 victims, with a 1 in 21 billion chance of error for both of those tests.
Of course, dude. They were like, hey, he did it.
Yeah, they're like, literally, there's no, this is his blood, this is the chance. Like, there's a 1 in a trillion chance that this isn't. And they're like, but that 1%, dude.
But that 1%, dude, it was Charlie. It was for sure Charlie.
It was Charlie. It wasn't him, dude. But yeah, and the crime scene photos are just like horrific. There's so much blood everywhere. They had 61 separate like blood samples that they put into evidence at the trial for them to just be like, but that cop said the N-words, though. Get out of here. The glove was a little tight. I know you had other gloves on underneath it, but get out of here. You free.
And if the gloves were soaking in blood, they would probably shrink. That's
what they said. They did try to fight that and say like they were soaking in blood and they had been frozen and unfrozen so many times for all this testing that like the material could have shrunk by this point. And they were like, see, but I don't know.
Juice. It's the juice.
That's literally what happened. And so like his defense team was like, the evidence was contaminated. That one cop said the N-word. We don't like him. They planted all this evidence. This is a setup. But they never said who, like, the only thing was Charlie, a made-up person who nobody ever heard of. Like, how does any of it make sense? And then they just let him go. He also, after this, got arrested again because he obviously didn't go to jail for this, right? So yes. He then goes to jail years later for, what was it, like kidnapping and robbery or something.
Yeah.
And he was sentenced to 33 years in prison, but he ended up getting out in 2017 for good behavior.
Dude, I remember that. They were hyping up, they're like, Juice is out, and then he just started posting videos on like social media and stuff, just being like out and about. Mm-hmm.
So he obviously was still going to be on parole, but so he lived in Nevada and in Florida as soon as he got out in 2017 up until 2021. On December 1st, 2021, OJ got granted an early discharge by the Nevada Parole Board and became a completely free man, so he's not even on parole anymore, dude.
Oh my God, he's killing people. He's out killing people.
Yeehaw, brother.